Hello again, my fellow pilots and my fellow aircraft maintenance personnel. Your host is always Haitham Ali, and I'm an aviation technical instructor. Today we are going to speak about the dilutor demand system. Dilutor demand system in oxygen system, and specifically in cockpit oxygen system. We understand everybody that we need oxygen in case of emergency inside the cabin, in case of cabin depressurization, in case of emergency situation of smoke happening in the cabin or the cockpit. And the flight crew must have a supplemental emergency oxygen system in case of this bad scenario. Always the cockpit crew oxygen system is consisting of a high pressure gas cylinder located underneath the cockpit in the avionics compartment. High pressure gas cylinder, cockpit system, continuous flow type oxygen system. Okay, everybody? And the main source for oxygen for the flight crew is a high pressure gas cylinder located in the avionics compartment underneath the cockpit. Okay. So this high pressure gas cylinder supply oxygen to the mask of the flight crew, oxygen mask of the flight crew. This mask, everybody, always called dilutor demand system or dilutor demand mask, because this mask, everybody, allows the possibility of dilution and demand supply of oxygen. Dilution and demand supply of oxygen. Okay, so as you can see, everybody, cockpit systems, the crew oxygen system provides an oxygen supply to the flight crew whenever the need arises. Need will be arised in case of emergency cabin depressurization. When we are going to descend rapidly, for example, from 35,000 feet to less than 10,000 feet, okay, in case of cabin depressurization, or in case of a smoke happening, emergency situation happen in the cabin or cockpit. Okay, everybody? Okay. The crew oxygen system mainly will be provided by a high pressure gas cylinder, continuous flow type oxygen system located in the avionics compartment, always underneath the cockpit. This is why this is to reduce the distance between the high pressure gas cylinder and the crew oxygen mask. Because you know, oxygen, everybody, is making is not safe to be routed for a long distance inside the cockpit or inside the aircraft. Okay, so different systems are in use, but the most common in modern aircraft or airliner is the dilutor demand system. Okay. The crew mask, always called quick donning mask. With only one hand, the flight crew can donning the mask. Okay, everybody? Quick donning mask. And always the oxygen will supply the straps of the mask to increase the straps in order to allow the flight crew to quickly don the mask on his face. Okay. And then each mask, everybody, has a regulator. Every mask has a regulator. Okay. This regulator is of the type of a dilutor demand regulator. Dilutor demand regulator. What is meant by dilutor demand regulator or dilutor demand system? The dilution function, everybody, allow the wearer to inhale a mix of oxygen coming from the cylinder and cabin air if the situation allow. And if the situation does not allow, the mask regulator will allow the wearer to only can breathe 100% oxygen coming from the cylinder. So always everybody in the mask regulator we have a selector that will be called normal or 100%. Normal or 100%. This normal or 100% selector is the dilution selector, dilutor selector. Because this selector will allow, if the selector is on the normal position, the wearer can inhale oxygen coming from the cylinder plus cabin air, and a dilution process can be happening. Okay, everybody? Okay. And if the wearer puts the selector on 100%, so in that case, the wearer will only inhale 100% supply of oxygen coming from the cylinder. No dilution process will be happening. No dilution process will be happening. And the demand selector or demand option in the regulator, everybody, may be always called emergency selector. If this emergency knob is pressed, so the wearer will breathe supply of oxygen under positive pressure. Because on the normal selection, the wearer will inhale, so oxygen will be supplied. Exhale, oxygen stop. But if the wearer is sick, maybe the captain or the first officer suffer from an illness, or the captain suffer from illness, so the first officer don't know if he can breathe or not. So if he cannot assure that he can breathe or not, so he will put the mask on his face and put the emergency knob, so the oxygen supply will be under positive pressure and will not depend on the inhale and exhale process from the wearer. Okay, everybody? So the demand selector in the regulator is an emergency selector. Demand selector is an emergency selector. If the wearer put this selector on the emergency position, so the oxygen will be supplied under positive pressure and will not depend on the inhale and exhale process of the wearer. Okay, everybody? So this option is always installed in the regulator of the mask. In the regulator of the mask. Mask regulator. Dilutor demand system. Dilutor demand system. Okay. Dilution process. If only we suffer from maybe need of oxygen and the air in the cabin is good, so we can make the dilution process. Mix process between oxygen coming from the cylinder and the cabin air. But what if a heavy smoke is everywhere in the cockpit or the cabin? We cannot allow the dilution process. We cannot allow the dilution process, and the wearer will put the dilution selector on the 100%. So only he can breathe 100% supply of oxygen from the gas cylinder, and no mix process will be happening. If the wearer is very sick, the colleague will put the mask on his face, putting the demand selector on the emergency position and putting the dilution selector on the dilutor selector on the 100%, so that in that case the wearer will breathe positive supply of oxygen thanks to the demand selector, and only he will breathe oxygen coming from the cylinder. No dilution process will be happening. No dilution process will be happening. Okay, everybody, this was a short explanation regarding the cockpit oxygen system and the dilutor demand oxygen system. Please stay tuned for upcoming sessions like this. From Cairo, Egypt, your host was Haitham Ali, and I'm an aviation technical instructor. Thank you and goodbye.